Hey my canning friends, today I'm going to be canning some ground beef. I want to show you a way to can ground beef that it does not change the texture. And I'd like some feedback from y'all today too. As you can see, I'm using my microphone today. I also have some different lighting in the room today. I don't have my new phone yet, but I'm working on that. Anyway, I want to show you what I'm doing with ground beef that keeps it from changing the texture during the canning process. Years ago, I made spaghetti sauce with ground beef in it and vegetable soup with ground beef in it, and we just did not like it. It made the ground beef tasted grainy, and it just changed the texture of it. So since that time, I have been canning my ground beef. If you can see right here, I've browned my ground beef and I've drained all of the fat out of it. And so what I'm going to do now, let me grab a spoon that I can use. Grab my jar right here, and you can see I'm going to just loosely pour this ground beef into the jar like that. It's dry. You can add water to it like this. You know, if you wanted to have a broth that you could use for canning soups or something like that. But when you add moisture to it, that's when you get the change of texture. And I've learned through the years that if I just loosely drop it into my jars up to, leave about a 1-inch headspace, and I'm not going to press it down. You can see there I've got it up to the bottom of that rim, and I'm not going to take the debubbler or anything to press it down. I'm just going to leave it just like that. And of course I'm doing pints today, so I'm going to process these on 10 pounds of pressure for me. Now, you know that depends on where you live. If you live high up in the mountains, you're going to have to use 15 pounds of pressure. And if you live down by the beach somewhere, you might be able to get by with 5. But I just about recommend anybody that's, not up in the mountains to go with 10. But anyways, I'm going to fill these jars all like this. And then I'm going to process them in pints for 75 minutes. Quarts would be for 90 minutes. And that's, any meat, you're going to do pints for 75 minutes, and you're going to do quarts for 90 minutes. And so, doing the meat like this, when I open it, if I've canned vegetable soup, I can pour a jar into my vegetable soup. If I want to make a casserole, I can use it in a casserole because it's pre-cooked. It's already dry. My husband likes beef and pork and beans. I'm not a fan, but he loves it. That's a country boy thing, I think. But anyway, I can open this up and just pour it in some pork and beans and heat it up. He can make a meal off of that, and it's a good lunchtime meal for him, when he comes in from working or, whatever he's been doing. It makes for an easy meal for him. And so, fajitas and tacos. You can... And this is something I will probably put on here pretty soon. I have a recipe for taco seasoning that you mix yourself. And it's much cheaper to do that than buying the taco seasoning in the grocery store. Plus you can fix it as hot or as mild as you prefer. But you could put your taco seasoning in here and go ahead and cook it, but keep in mind that when you pressure can some seasonings, And sage is one of those. There's several of them that you can change. It changes the flavor. They become bitter in the canning process under pressure. So I find that it's best that, you know, if I wanted to use this in an Italian dish, most Italian seasonings don't change flavor. They won't get bitter during the process. So I could put some Italian seasoning in this to use for, you know, mixed with spaghetti sauce. But honestly, I find that it's just better to do it this way, put it on the shelf as ground beef, and then when I get ready to use it for something, I don't have to look, but you know, between my jars to see if if I'm getting, something that's been flavored for tacos or something that's been flavored for pasta or whatever. I can just go grab a jar and use it in whatever that I'm wanting to use it in. And for casseroles, like lasagna, any kind of a casserole that you're going to use ground beef in, this is perfect. I mean, I can make a small casserole for my husband and me with one jar. Now, I will say this. Let me grab one right here. You will see that once it's been processed, if there's any bit of grease down in there, it will settle. And you'll see that it settles down from the top a little bit. And that's okay. This is one of the instances where if it settles, it's okay. It's just part of the process. You still don't have to pack it down. I think you probably could pack it down a little bit, but what you're trying to do here is make sure that the heat goes all the way through it. And the more you pack it down, the less that heat's going to distribute to the middle. So I just always do mine like that with just, putting it in the jar loosely and then just put a lid on it. Make sure that you use a cloth or a paper towel or something with some vinegar on it to clean around the rim, because this has got grease on it, and grease could prevent you from getting a good seal on your jar. So that gives me 6 right there already. And this is another one of those things that, to have ground beef shelf stable. I mean, y'all know I live in East Tennessee, and I'm not too far from the mountains where Hurricane Helene hit. And I actually helped some in that recovery the recovery situation, getting food and some things like that. If y'all don't watch Patara at Appalachia's Homestead or Pinball Preparedness, Pinball and Patara and I worked together and brought in, there was a bunch of people that helped us. And Pinball put a link for people to donate money. And all told, by the time it was said and done, I guesstimate, and I mentioned this to him and he agreed with me, that we probably distributed at least $500,000 in food and water and cat food and dog food and solar generators and solar panels. And then people sent so much clothing, coats and socks and toboggans and just all kinds of stuff for us to take to those people that are homeless. But I said that all to say this. we've got another storm coming right now, a snowstorm that could potentially dump a big amount of snow on us and those people in the mountains right now. They're still living in tents. And even the ones that are not living in tents, a lot of them are living in campers, or they're living in tiny homes or even storage buildings. And pray for those people. They really need our prayers. They need our help right now, but they need our prayers. And so having something like this on the shelf, if the power goes out, you know, who would have ever thought that we would have a hurricane in East Tennessee or Western North Carolina? We usually get a little bit of residual rain and wind off of one, but to have power outages for days and days and days, and to have no water in a lot of these communities for 2 weeks or longer, and having something like this on the shelf could be a lifesaver. And so I'm going to be talking to y'all a little bit more about building your pantry and pantry preparedness. And I know a lot of y'all are used to me being on Facebook and just doing canning. But I've learned over the last several years that canning is not going to be enough. If you don't have enough water stockpiled and the right kind of backup heat source, and a way to keep yourself warm and dry, then you're still going to have problems. So anyway, I'm going to get this finished and get it in the canner, and I'll be doing some more videos. I just talked with my guy that I get my beef from, and I've got another quarter of a beef coming in about 3 to 4 weeks toward the end of the month. And so I'll be canning some more roast and just all kinds of stuff with that. So probably some vegetable soup with beef in it, and maybe some chili and who knows what. But anyway, until next time, God bless you.